mentally disabled to regain their competency and go on to lead productive lives. That is the goal of a new group made up of law enforcement personnel, mental health experts, and local judges. They've been trying to help people who've been charged with crimes but have been deemed incompetent to stand trial. As our Rudy Trevino reports, they already have had some success stories.
At any given day, 18 people sitting here in Nueces County Jail that have mental illness that need to be treated.
Mike Davis, Chief Executive Officer with the Nueces Center for Mental Health and Intellectual Disabilities, oversees this one-of-a-kind in the state program.
Our job right now is trying to go ahead and do as much work as we can to go ahead and help them, and also take the burden off the actual sheriff's department and the jailers who have to deal with these people. Unfortunately, I mean, and they need treatment.
It's called the Competency Restoration Program, and it specifically targets inmates at the Nueces County Jail. The program, however, is not a get-out-of-jail-free card, and only certain inmates are eligible.
There are certain crimes, including murder, aggravated assault, sexual assault, that we cannot serve in jail-based competency restoration. Essentially, right now, what the law reads is those individuals must be served in a maximum security unit at a state facility.
But there is a long waiting list among these types of inmates to get into state mental hospitals. To give you an idea, our state population is 28 million people. But Texas only has 2,400 beds available in state hospitals. Of those, 60%, or 1,400 beds, are used by people serving long sentences for committing horrific crimes but were deemed incompetent. The local program seeks to get inmates in need of mental health to receive it within 60 days so they can stand trial for their crimes.
Well, we've already had some great success. We've already had one individual that we were able to restore within less than 30 days. And so you take something like that with an average wait time of 196 days to go to the state hospital, and then in less than 30 days we've been able to restore them to competency and be able to push that case through court.
The program has already saved taxpayers money and will eventually save jail space for those who commit serious crimes. Rudy Trevino, 3 News.